40 years ago, I planted my first perennial garden. I trusted the catalogue. I trusted the nursery tag. I trusted the grandmother who handed me a pot of something she swore I would love. I have spent the 4 decades since digging some of those plants back out. 9 perennials. 9 plants every catalogue still markets. 9 names sitting on the shelf at the warehouse club this Saturday morning, and every single one of them has cost me something I cannot get back. Time. Money. Topsoil. Plants I actually wanted, smothered out by these. The plant at number 9 is in half the wildflower seed mixes sold in this country. The plant at number 4 is in your grandmother's garden right now and is probably already in your lawn. The plant at number 1 has a taproot deeper than your shovel can reach and is in every classical herbal published in English between 1500 and 1900. Number 1 is the regret with the longest paper trail. Stay with me, and if this is useful, subscribe before we get to number 1. Number 9. Yellow Archangel. Lamiastrum geliobdulum. The variegated silver and green shade-ground cover that every American homeowner with a wooded backlot has been talked into planting at least once. The catalogue photograph is genuinely stunning. Heart-shaped leaves splashed with metallic silver, brilliant yellow flowers in May, fast establishment in dry shade where almost nothing else will grow. Tagged as low maintenance, drought tolerant, deer resistant. All 3 of those words are true. All 3 of those words are also why I'm asking you not to plant it. Year 1, exactly as advertised, a glowing carpet of silver foliage under your maple. Year 3, it has crossed the bedline and entered the lawn. Year 5, it is on the neighbour's property. Year 7, it has climbed into the woodland behind the fence and replaced the native trillium and bloodroot that lived there for a century. Yellow Archangel spreads by stolons that root at every node and by stem fragments that regenerate from any piece left behind. Pull a runner, the rooted node continues. Mow over it, every chopped fragment becomes a new plant. It is now classified as invasive in Washington, Oregon, and parts of New England, with active eradication programs in Pacific Northwest woodlands. Removal is excavation, cardboard, 6 inches of mulch, 2 seasons of patience. The native fix is foam flower, Tiarella cordifolia. Same shade tolerance, similar mounding habit, stays exactly where you plant it. The Latin name on the pot tells you the truth. The common name on the tag does not. Number 8. Plume Poppy. Macleaea cordata, the dramatic 8-foot perennial sold for the back of the border, with enormous lobed blue-grey leaves and creamy plume flowers in midsummer that look like something out of a Victorian botanical print. The catalogue photograph shows one mature specimen anchoring the back corner of an English-style border. The catalogue photograph is honest about what it shows. It is dishonest about what it does not show. Plume poppy spreads by deep underground rhizomes that travel 10 to 15 feet in a single season once the plant is established. By year 3, what you planted in the back corner is coming up between the patio stones 20 feet away. By year 5, it is in the lawn, in the vegetable garden, and in the bed across the driveway. Pull a stem, the rhizome continues. Dig a section, every fragment regenerates. The sap is bright orange and irritating to skin. Wear long sleeves and gloves every time you attempt removal. Glyphosate barely slows it. I planted 3 plume poppies along a back fence in 1994 because a garden writer I trusted recommended them for architectural drama. By 2001, they were in the lawn 40 feet from the original planting. I have been removing them, slowly, ever since. The fix is to plant a tall ornamental grass instead. Calamagrostis Carl Förster gives you the same architectural back of border drama without the underground campaign across your property. Number 7. Obedient plant. Physostegia virginiana. The cruelest name in American horticulture. The plant got its common name because each individual flower can be pushed sideways on the stem and will stay where you put it. That is what is obedient. The plant itself is the opposite of obedient. Pink or white tubular flowers on 3-foot spikes in late summer, sold as a native pollinator perennial, late season bloomer, butterfly garden essential. All three claims are true. Native, late blooming, pollinator friendly. The catalogue leaves out the fourth claim, which is the only one that matters in year 5. It is one of the most aggressive spreaders, sold under a native plant label in the United States. Underground rhizomes push outward 2 to 3 feet every season in good soil. By year 3, your 3-plant cluster is a 40-square-foot colony. By year 5, it has eaten the bed and is coming up through the cracks of the flagstone path. The named cultivars Vivid and Miss Manners are marketed as better-behaved selections. Miss Manners is genuinely more compact. Vivid is not. Read the cultivar name carefully. The fix is to plant it in a sunken, bottomless container, a 5-gallon bucket with the bottom cut out, sunk to the rim, or pick a true clumping native instead. Penstemon digitalis, or Liatris spicata, gives you the late summer pollinator activity without the underground colonization. The native plant label is not the same as the well-behaved label. Some of the most aggressive perennials in American gardens are technically native. Native means it belongs on this continent. It does not mean it belongs in your border. Breed plants in. And I want to be honest with you, every single plant on this list, including the 3 you just heard, was sold to me as a good idea by someone I trusted. A catalogue, a nursery employee, a neighbor. 40 years of those mistakes is what this video is built on. If 40 years of someone else's regret is going to save you one weekend of digging out something you should never have planted, hit subscribe right now. It costs you nothing. The next video is the opposite of this one, the 5 perennials I have planted 3 times in 40 years and would plant again tomorrow. You don't want it to disappear in your feed. Number 6. Japanese anemone. Anemone hupahensis. The elegant late summer perennial with tall slender stems and pink or white poppy-shaped flowers above clean dark green foliage. Garden writers describe it as graceful. Catalogue photographs show it floating above a stone wall in soft September light. Named varieties like Honorine Jobet, Pamina, and September Charm appear in nearly every catalogue from August through October. All beautiful, all real, all accurate in the first 3 years. Year 4 is when the conversation changes. Japanese anemone establishes slowly, which is what gives it the trustworthy reputation. Once the root system reaches a certain mass, it switches into a different gear and begins running through the bed by suckering rhizomes that pop up 2, 3, 5 feet from the parent plant. The new shoots emerge through neighboring perennials, through the lawn, through the cracks at the base of the foundation. By year 6, it has crossed into the turf. By year 8, the original elegant clump is now a sprawling colony you have stopped trying to control, and the hostas you planted alongside it have been smothered. Removal requires excavating every fragment. Cut roots regenerate. Glyphosate suppresses, but rarely eliminates. The fix is Hochira caramel or Astilbe visions in the part shade border for similar architecture without the 8-year ambush. If you must plant Japanese anemone, give it a contained bed surrounded on all sides by hardscape, a mowing strip, a stone wall, a path, open border, never. Number 5. Gooseneck leucostrife. Lysimachia clethroides. The plant the catalogue photographs, because its arching white flower spikes genuinely look like a flock of geese craning their necks in the same direction in July. It is one of the most photogenic perennials on the American market. It is also one of the most aggressive non-native runners I have ever planted in 40 years of gardening. Gooseneck leucostrife spreads by underground rhizomes that travel quickly through any soil type. The rhizomes are thin, white, and fragile, which is the part that destroys you. Every fragment left in the soil regenerates into a new plant. Pull one section. You have created 6. By year 3, Gooseneck leucostrife is in the bed beside it. By year 5, it has crossed into the lawn. The white flower spike that sold you the plant is the same one dropping seed across the rest of the property. State extension services across the Northeast and Midwest list it as aggressive. I planted a single 1-gallon Lysimachia clethroides in 1998 in a perennial border at the edge of a lawn. By 2005, it had colonized roughly 200 square feet across the bed and the turf. I removed the entire planting in 2006 and was still pulling shoots in 2011. 5 years of removal from one 1-gallon pot. The fix is Veronicastrum virginicum, Culver's root, for similar vertical white spikes that stay exactly where you plant them. Or, for a curved arching white flower, look at Persicaria amplexicalis, white Eastfield. Clumping, well-behaved, and beautiful. Quick honest moment before number 4. Every plant on this list shares one thing in common, and once you see it, you will never look at a nursery tag the same way again. Every single one of these regrets was originally selected, bred, or marketed for one trait. Speed of establishment. Fast growing, fast spreading, fast filling. That is the trait the wholesale grower wants, because the plant fills the gallon pot in one season. That is the trait the retailer wants, because customers buy what looks lush on the shelf. That is the trait the catalog photographs in year 1, because year 1 is when the plant looks best. The trait the catalog never photographs is what that same plant does in year 5, year 10, year 20. The trial garden knows, the breeder knows, the wholesale buyer knows. You and I were the only people in the conversation who did not. Stop buying speed. Start buying behavior. The plants worth keeping in a yard are not the ones that grow fastest. They are the ones that stop exactly where you tell them to. Once you reorient your buying around that one principle, your future garden looks completely different from the gardens of every neighbor still buying what is lush on the shelf this Saturday morning. Number 4. Lily of the Valley. Convallaria majalis, the fragrant white bellflowers of every American grandmother's shade garden, and the perennial my own mother planted in 1972, and that my sister is still digging out of the same yard in 2026. Convallaria spreads by pips, small underground rhizome buds that push outward in every direction every spring. One mature patch produces dozens of new pips per season. By year 10, what started as a half-dozen pips along the foundation is a continuous mat under the entire shade border, and the hostas, the ferns, and the bleeding heart you planted in good faith are gone. The fragrance is the trap. People plant Convallaria for the fragrance, never realizing it is one of the most aggressive shade colonizers available to American gardeners. There is one more critical detail. Lily of the Valley is acutely toxic to dogs, cats, and humans. Every part of the plant, including the water from a cut flower vase, contains cardiac glycosides. Pediatric poison control centers across the country receive calls every spring from parents whose toddlers have chewed on a stem. The fix is sweet woodruff, Galium odoratum, for similar shade fragrance without the colonization or the toxicity. Or if you must have Convallaria, plant it in a buried bottomless container and not in open ground. Inheriting it is one thing. Planting it new in 2026 with everything we now know is a different kind of decision. 5 plants in, and a brief honest detour. The most painful regret on this list is still ahead, but before we get there, drop one comment below. Tell me which plant you regret most in your own garden. The one you wish you had never planted, because the next regret video on this channel, and there will be a next one, gets built directly from your answers. 40 years of my mistakes started this list. Yours will write the next one. And if you have not subscribed yet, do it now so the next video reaches you the moment it goes live. Number 3. Mint. Mentha. Every species, every variety, every cultivar, peppermint, spearmint, chocolate mint, apple mint, pineapple mint, mojito mint, every cute name the breeders have come up with over the past 4 decades. Sold at every garden center in America from April through September as a kitchen herb. The leaves are edible. The tea is wonderful. The mojito is excellent. None of those facts is the relevant one. Mint planted directly in the ground is one of the most aggressive perennial spreaders available to American gardeners. The rhizome architecture is shallow, fast-moving, and brittle. Every fragment regenerates. By year 2, mint planted in your kitchen herb bed is in your lettuce, your tomatoes, your basil, and the lawn beyond the garden. By year 5, it is in places you cannot identify how it got there. The fix is simple and absolute. Container only, 12-inch pot minimum, drainage tray underneath, and the tray cannot rest on bare soil. Mint will root through the drainage holes into the ground beneath the pot within a single season. If the pot sits directly on dirt, you get the full harvest, the full medicinal use, and none of the colonization. I have made this mistake more than once. Once with chocolate mint in 1989, because I genuinely believed the small print on the tag that said clumping habit. Again with apple mint in 2003, because I told myself I had learned and could control it. I had not learned anything. The clumping habit claim is one of the most consistent lies in herb gardening. There is no clumping mint. There is only contained mint and uncontained mint. Number 2. Bishop's weed. Goutweed. Egopodium podagraria, almost always sold under the cultivar name variegatum, with white and green leaves that look fresh and clean in nursery containers. The catalogue markets it as a tough shade ground cover, fast establishing under trees, drought tolerant, deer resistant. All 4 claims are accurate. Bishop's weed will grow where almost nothing else will. That is the entire problem. The rhizomes are deep, brittle, and aggressive. Every fragment left in the soil regenerates. State extension services from Maine to Minnesota classify it as one of the most invasive ground covers ever sold in American horticulture. Once Bishop's weed is established in your yard, removal is a multi-year project. Excavation, repeated solarization, 2 to 3 full seasons of cardboard and mulch. Some homeowners eventually capitulate and let it have the bed. Some pour concrete. The variegated form is genetically unstable. By year 5, large sections often revert to plain green and become even more aggressive than the original cultivar because they no longer carry the slight vigor cost of the variegation. The catalogue photo of fresh white and green ground cover is not the plant you have in year 10. The plant you have in year 10 is plain green Agopodium running across an acre of property line. The fix is Pachysandra terminalis, or Asarum canadense, wild ginger, for shade ground cover that stays where it belongs. The native Asarum is slower to establish. That is a feature, not a bug. The slower a ground cover establishes, the more years you have to change your mind. Number 1. Creeping Bellflower, Campanula rapunculoides. The most regretted perennial in my 40-year garden. The flower is genuinely beautiful, 3-foot stems with one-sided spikes of nodding violet-purple bells in July, sold occasionally under its botanical name at heritage perennial nurseries, more often shared by a well-meaning neighbor with a mason jar of this pretty thing in my backyard. That is how Campanula rapunculoides arrives in most American gardens. Inherited, traded, given. Almost never bought from a reputable nursery, because the reputable nurseries stopped selling it years ago. Creeping Bellflower has 2 completely separate spreading mechanisms working simultaneously. First, a deep tuberous taproot that goes 18 inches to 2 feet straight down and regenerates from any fragment left in the soil. You cannot dig it out. The shovel does not reach the bottom of the root. Whatever piece breaks off and stays in the soil sends up a new shoot within weeks. Second, prolific seed production. A single mature plant produces thousands of seeds per season, blown across the yard, germinating wherever bare soil exists. The combination of deep taproot and heavy seeding is what makes this plant uniquely impossible. Pull the top, the root continues. Spray broadly, you damage everything around it. Solarize the area. The seeds wait 3 to 5 years dormant in the soil and germinate the moment you uncover the ground. Many state extension services list Creeping Bellflower as one of the worst garden invasives in the northern United States. The University of Minnesota and the University of Wisconsin have both published removal protocols that span multiple growing seasons and include the phrase, "complete eradication is rarely achieved." Read that phrase again. Complete eradication is rarely achieved. That is a state university extension service describing a plant still being shared neighbor to neighbor every spring. Most homeowners who eliminate it from a property do so over 5 to 7 years using cardboard, mulch, repeated digging, and patience. If a neighbor offers you a pretty purple bellflower from my yard, ask the botanical name first. If they say Campanula rapunculoides, decline politely and walk away. If they say Campanula passicifolia or Campanula glomerata, those are the well-behaved cousins, and you are completely fine. The Latin name is the only thing that tells you the truth. The common name lies in both directions. 9 plants. 40 years. Some of them I planted because the catalogue convinced me. Some I planted because a nursery employee promised they were behaved. Some I inherited from the previous owner of the house and have been removing slowly ever since. Every single one of them is still being sold somewhere in this country today. The catalogue markets the new. The trial garden documents what lasts. The honest gardener, 40 years in, tells you which plants will be in your yard a decade after you wish they were gone. You are your own landscape architect now. Plant for year 15, not year 1. Read the Latin name on the pot, not the marketing copy on the tag. Look up the cultivar before you buy it, not after. And when a neighbor offers you a pot of this pretty thing, ask the botanical name before you say yes. The answer they give you is the difference between a garden you control and a garden that controls you. The next video on this channel is the opposite of this one. The 5 perennials I have planted 3 times in 40 years and would plant again tomorrow. Subscribe right now so it lands in your feed the moment it goes live. And before you go, drop a comment with the perennial you regret most. I read every single one. The next regret list is being built from your stories in real time.